Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Our next guest is on a mission to help women across the globe dream, transform, elevate, and prosper. She is a 17-year real estate veteran, lifestyle coach, speaker, and author. Welcome, Keianna Williams.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Frances.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you want them to know about you and your business?
Sure. Okay. And like you said, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. And I started the Lifestyle Exchange, which is the one thing that I'm truly passionate about. I started that business in 2012. And my purpose is to really, inspire women, to empower them, to help them become the best versions of who they are. And when I went into the business, I was coaching women initially, and I started realizing I was coaching them on living a healthy lifestyle, and I started realizing that for a lot of women, we could create meal plans and do those things, but and they would lose weight. However, I would see them like every 3 to 6 months. And I realized that it was deeper than them just wanting to lose weight. And started really focusing on getting to the root cause of their problems. And a lot of that was life. And when I say life, we're talking about stress, whether it's stress at home, stress at within their relationships, financial issues, and really wanted to start focusing on digging deeper and helping them to learn how to manage that stress. Because a lot of times we can't, it's life. We're going to deal with things for the rest of our life. But I think if we learn how to actually manage those things, it'll be easier to navigate through life. And so I started kind of focusing on mind, body, and spirit, which is where the direction I took my business into. And I've been focusing on, mind, body, and spirit for probably the last 6 or 7 years of my business.
Who is your ideal client?
My ideal client is, my target is women. And what I've started noticing early on when I started focusing on mind, body, and spirit is that I attract entrepreneurs. And I couldn't understand why I was attracting entrepreneurs at first. However, I realized that it takes a different mindset, different faith. The way we think is totally different. And, you have to kind of have a lot of things together in order to, run a successful business. And when I say have a lot of things together, I'm not talking about, finances and things like that, but I'm talking about more from a mental, spiritual standpoint. And so I realized that probably 75% of the women that I work with are entrepreneurs.
What was that aha moment, Keianna, that you knew you were going to be successful?
That aha moment was 2018, summer 2018, June 2018 to be exact. I was going through postpartum depression, and I had just had my first women empowerment event, and realized from that very first event when I sold out, I realized how much there was a need for women empowerment. And I planned the event even while going through postpartum depression. And shortly after the event, I, packed up. I left my husband and my 18-month-old twins. For 4 days, I went to a hotel, and I was just so confused. I wasn't happy. I didn't know what direction my life was about to go in or should go in. And I went to a hotel, did not turn on the TV for 4 days. And I asked God to pray to God and ask him to give me direction. And I just had a notebook and pen, and I wrote for 4 days. And during those 4 days, God gave me the blueprint for my lifestyle transformation program. And the following month, July 2018, I tried it out on 10 women. I handpicked 10 women in different walks of life. And I took them through a 30-day lifestyle transformation program. And, just to really try it out. And the impact that it had on every last woman's life, I knew at that moment, that was my aha moment. And I knew that I was walking in my purpose. And it took off just from their testimonies. I didn't have to do a whole lot of marketing, just from them sharing their testimonies and their experience through the program with their following, with their friends, and with their family. That program kind of took off. And, it just led to much bigger things. So now, that led to me becoming an author. I do a big women's empowerment event every single year. And all of that was a result of me really realizing that this was what God placed me on this earth to do back in 2018.
Fill in the blank. Thank you, pandemic, because.
Thank you, pandemic, because that was a turning point for me, not only in my business, because, I'm a personal type of coach. I like to work with people directly in person. So it had to, I was forced to kind of figure out this virtual thing, but it also was the turning point for in my personal life as well. I was married for 16 years at that point, and ended up, it was my high school sweetheart, and I ended up separating at the very end of 2020. And, devastated, because that's the only man I had ever been with at the time. However, I got to a place where instead of being angry at God, I was thanking God for loving me enough to remove me from a toxic situation that I had no idea I was in. And because I went through that, it really shaped me into the woman that I needed to be to really go out here and lead other women.
Keianna, thank you for being so authentic and open and honest. I want you to talk to the woman in the audience that's dealing with that, a very toxic relationship. Know that they should leave. We're not telling them to leave or not leave. I don't know what you're going to say, but I want you to speak directly to that person.
Okay. And what I would say is, whether or not you should leave, that is definitely between you and God. And I pray that you go to God, because a lot of times we don't want to know or hear the truth. And there's nobody that can guide you but Him. And when I went through my situation, it was probably the most painful and traumatic experience that I had ever faced in my entire life. And there was no therapist that could get me through. There was no friends that had been through it that could get me through. It was only by the grace of God. And it took a lot of prayer. And I would, just say to any woman that is going through anything, or even if they're just unhappy and not necessarily going through anything, to get on your knees. To get on your knees.
It's pretty profound that you're in the mind, body, and soul space.
Yes.
And you're sharing you needed mind, body, soul healing. Yes. Talk about mental wellness and entrepreneurship.
Yes. It's interesting because, I believe life is a journey. And a lot of times we don't necessarily understand the journey as we're going through certain things. And honestly, even looking back on everything now, it's been almost 2 years since my divorce has been finalized. But looking back, even when my program started, because I actually was one of the 10 women that went through the program. So I did everything with the women, based on the instructions. And looking back on my life, and what I've gone through in these last 2 years, I realized that God was preparing me mentally, spiritually, to handle what he knew that I was about to go through. And I could honestly say it was definitely God that got me through it. But in my program, we deal with self-worth, we deal with confidence, just personal development, self-care, self-love. These are all the things that we really focus on. And all of that was critical. Me knowing my worth, me loving myself enough, me wanting to take better care of myself, me wanting to be happy within, and understanding that there's nobody that can make you happy. You have to find happiness within first. Me going through that program and understanding all of that 2 years prior definitely made a difference and helped me to get out of that situation with God. And not with God, but to get out of that situation. So with God working, preparing me 2 years prior, and me praying and relying on God and going to him as my source to help me through it, that's how I was able to get through it. And it's crazy because I see a lot of women, since I've been so open about my experience from the very beginning, I've had so many women come to me in similar situations, but just afraid to leave. And more so, not afraid from an abusive perspective, but more so afraid because of what they are going to potentially lose, how their children will be affected. Money. Not only were we in a pandemic, I was receiving pandemic unemployment, still not sure what direction my business was going to go in. And I had 4-year-old twins. I had never in my entire life been on my own. I had been with this man since I was 15 years old. I don't know what being single looks like. I waited till I was 35 to have children because I wanted to make sure they wasn't another statistic and end up in a single parent household. I was married 12 years. Praying that my relationship was solid enough and that I had a home and, finances to be able to support kids before I did it. And still here I am almost, when it happened, I was almost 40 years old, having to trust God that everything would be okay despite of what anything looked like. And, the divorce was so bad that, my ex-husband did not want to. He had a very successful business. He said he wasn't giving me any of his business. He took all the money, and God told me to let it go. And everybody thought I was crazy. My attorney, counselors, and I knew what God told me to do. And it didn't make sense to me either because I felt everything we built together. We were married 16 years. But I trusted God. And he told me that my ex-husband was not my source, that he was my source. And I did it. And I did it scared. And God began to show up within 30 days. And he has blessed my life more than I could have ever imagined since then.
And you kind of parlayed into my next question. How are you doing? How is your mental wellness today?
I am probably the happiest I've ever been. Probably the most successful I've ever been. And when I say success, it's not, I've been very blessed financially since. I've made more money than I've ever made in my life, even with us combined. However, to me, success is more so just being happy, fulfilled, at peace. And looking back, I realized that this was something that needed to happen in order for me to get to this place. And of course, I thought I was happy, prior to, but I had no idea what happiness was like until I went through that process.
What brings you joy, Keianna?
What brings me true joy is really being effective and some positive in a positive way in someone else's life. So, you know, I don't, and it's crazy because people get on me all the time. I don't do what I do for money. I do what I do to see another woman smile. I do what I do to see my children smile. And that's what brings me pure joy. And honestly, I believe that because that's who I am wholeheartedly. And, I believe that that's why, God continues to bless me in my business because he knows that I'm doing this from my heart. So what makes me smile, I'll smile. You'll see the biggest smile on me if somebody comes and tells me that I had something to do with their life being transformed. More than you will someone handed me a check.
What breaks your heart?
What breaks my heart is to see another woman broken. It truly breaks my heart. And now that I've been through what I've been through, just having a conversation with a woman, I can tell if they're broken or not. And it really breaks my heart because I see beauty in everyone. And a lot of time, when I'm talking to women, the smile cannot hide the pain and the brokenness and the darkness that's in their life. And it's like, man, like you don't even know what life is like on the other side. And it's just like my mission to help them get to that other side.
What impact are you making daily in women's lives?
I truly believe that I'm making a huge impact. I'm like I said, I don't just talk. I'm not an online coach. I like to get out here in the community, and if anybody knows me, they know every day I don't sit in the house. I like to go out here and impact women in person, whether that's I'm quick to you know have a woman to just ride with me and we talk about life and they get to see what it is that I'm doing. I'm quick to, go into a coffee shop and just see a woman and have a conversation with that woman and, just make a difference. And it's my mission every day to affect at least one woman's life every single day. And whatever God guides me or leads me to do, that's what I do to do it.
There are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire and why.
I would truly say women in business, number one. The number of female business owners in the United States is like the highest it's ever been. So anytime I see a woman start a business, a woman that's been successful in that business, I'm truly inspired. And there's one young lady who that's local in Atlanta who truly inspires me because she started her restaurant, which is a popular restaurant here in Atlanta, during the pandemic, to be exact. And, she got out there during the pandemic, blood, sweat, and tears on her own to make her business what it is today. And, just to see her at 41 years old, with two successful businesses here in the city, restaurants, and she's in the process of opening more. Is a lot of inspiration. That's a lot of inspiration for me, and watching her give back to the community the way she does is truly amazing. And seeing women like that is not just reaping the benefits and the fruits from her labor, but also giving and blessing others. I'm inspired. And her name is Ebony Austin, and she's the owner of Nouveau Bar and Grill in Atlanta.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to have a monologue, and I want you to name this person, living or not, and they've inspired you so much. Who is that person, and what are you saying?
That person would be, it's actually a mentor of mine. And it's a male, and he's been in my life since 2006, and really I've just watched him and learned so much from him. He's taken a lot of time to really, teach me about business and, just how to handle people and how to treat people. And I tell him all the time how much he's made an impact in my life. And I believe that, we need more people like that in the world that's willing to open up and share, freely to pour into someone else. And his name is Gabriel Jacobs. And, I don't think I would be where I am without him mentoring me over these last 16 and a half years.
Speaking of mentors or influencers, talk
Mhm.
about your top two mentors and what lessons do they teach you?
Um, so my top two mentors, he would definitely be one, Mr. Gabriel Jacobs. He's a very successful business owner, and philanthropist. And, he really, some of the lessons is to, one of the main lessons that he's taught me is to be a blessing to other people. Um, and, I think it's truly important because a lot of times as business owners, and like I said, I watch him a lot of times, we're so caught up in our own lives because we're so busy that we don't take the time, to think, not to, number one, thank God for blessing us, but we don't take the time to bless other people or pour into it. And I don't think a lot of times it's, due to selfish reasons. It's just more so, I know as an entrepreneur, we can be so focused and one track minded that we have to sometimes, step away from business and look at somebody else's life and just be a blessing to others. Because I hear from women a lot, and not just women, from people in general, that, man, if I had someone that would have blessed me. And when I think about it, I had women, men and women actually, that believed in me enough to spend time or bless me financially, bless my business financially, so that I can make an impact. So I learned that from him, and he truly lives that to this day. It's so many people that I know that is so grateful for that man that, I wanted to live my life that way too. So I would definitely say he's, taught me that, to be a blessing to other people.
Did you want to name another one?
Um, I can't think of another. I mean, I'm sure I have plenty of mentors, but he stands out the most. So,
Keianna, advice you wish you had followed.
advice I wish I would have followed. I would say to be true to who I am. And the reason why I would give any person that advice is because I grew up as the pretty child, the pretty girl. I grew up as the good girl. I grew up as the girl that didn't make mistakes. And I realized that I was living my life, trying to live up to everyone else's expectations of me. And it made it so difficult for me to live the life how I wanted to live based on my personality. And it's hard when you're afraid to make a mistake and afraid of being criticized and judged for being you. And honestly, it wasn't until I went through my divorce that I was just like, you know what, this is who I am. You're going to either love me or hate me. You're going to accept it or you don't. And there's nothing more freeing than being yourself. And honestly, it wasn't until I was my authentic self that my following grew. Opportunities truly opened up, and my business really, really started flourishing. because people, when you're authentic to who you truly are, and sometimes we don't know who we are. So you got to first, know who you are. But when we're authentic to that, I believe people can feel that and they can trust you more with their life and the things that they're going through.
So dig a little deeper into that when you talk about be true to who you are, being authentically yourself, peeling back the layers. How do you get there? And so as an entrepreneur and you have all these things you have going on and you're trying to get capital in, raise money or whatever. Any advice in reference to that?
I would say, it takes a lot of, personal development and really getting to know who you truly are. One thing that I do and I've been doing prior, really since my early 20s, I develop a routine. I've developed a routine where every morning, is devotion time for me. I spend 5 minutes reading. I spend 5 minutes watching some type of personal development, you know, video, whether it's Sarah Jakes Roberts or whoever, and just praying and meditating. And, I believe that allows me to really get in tune with my inner self. And, through that, and this is something that does not happen overnight. This has taken me years to get to this place of, really learning about me. And that takes time. You know, we're so busy, you know, our world's society is so fast paced that if we don't take that time first thing in the morning, I believe that how else will you get to know who you are? By being still, by being isolated from everything and eliminating distractions. And I believe the best time to do that is first thing when you wake up. And I've learned so much about me over the years, realizing the things that I love, my personality, all these different things, and just being okay with, hey, I may not be perfect, but this is me. This is how God made me, and this is who I am. And I have to be okay with not pleasing everybody, being okay with whether or not, knowing that everybody's not going to like that version of me. And like I said, that takes a lot of work because a lot of people are so caught up in how people view them. And I can truly say that it does not faze me what people think of me.
You talked about giving up everything. How did you raise money for your business?
Honestly, the business has been self-funded since I started. So I've never taken out a loan to do what I do. Now I'm at the place where after my divorce, things change for the better, obviously. But I'm at a place now where, and I believe a lot of it has to do with me being my true authentic self, that I have people wanting to pour into my business. They're seeing what I'm doing and wanting to be a part. I just put on a 2-day event, women's empowerment event, March 4th and 5th in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, and was able to raise $10,000 in sponsorship money. And most of that I didn't have to ask for. People are starting to get companies are starting to get word of what I'm doing and believe in what I'm doing and want to help in any way that I can. And even from that event, I was able to draw so many people to that event, so many people who has the resources to, make a difference. They already talking about helping the next event next year, sponsoring the next event. So I think it's just been a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, tears, a lot of sacrifice, over the last 10 years. I've been in business 11 years, but over the last 10 years, I've put a lot of sweat equity, a lot of my own personal funds. And, I truly believe that you have to be willing to invest in yourself before somebody else is willing to. And what I've done financially to pour into my business, I've built a solid business, and I think people can now see that, and they're wanting to be a part.
Are you still doing the real estate?
Yes, I am.
So
Yes,
you're
I've been.
doing,
Yeah, I do the real estate, and believe it or not, I get a lot of clients, because all of it, I think, lifestyle really, helping women to, um, create this life that they desire. It all kind of plays together, real estate, even with my health coaching, lifestyle coaching. So I get a lot of clients just by being out here and speaking and networking with women.
so we've talked about the mind, we've talked about the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about mind, body, and soul. I want you to encompass it all.
Yes. So I believe that all of them are important equally. I truly believe that. And, for me, I actually started with the body. That's how I started my business. Initially back in 2012, we was focused more on the body. And, I believe that we only have one body, and we need to take care of that body. But also we only have one mind as well. And you can be in shape, you can eat well, but if you're not mentally healthy, stress is one of the number one killers. So you can have all this money and work and do all of that and still exercise. I've seen people drop dead from running in the best shape of their lives. So I think that there has to be a balance. And when it comes to balance, I believe that, especially for entrepreneurs like myself, because we can focus so much on one and neglect the others. Spiritual, we can neglect the spirit, we can neglect the mind, and the body. I'm sorry, we can neglect the body. And that's why, like, even with my daily routine, that's why it's important for me to start my day a certain way, because I have to, you know work my mind, I have to work my body, and I eating healthy is a lifestyle for me. So I eat a certain way because I need to feel a certain way throughout the day. So all of it goes hand in hand. And I think that, you need to equally take care of all three in order to be the best version of yourself.
And what does self-care look like for Keianna?
Self-care looks like making yourself a priority, like putting yourself first. And that eating well, taking care of the body, mind, spirit, um, doing things that you love, doing things that actually make you happy. One of my happy places is going to the spa and getting my nails done and my feet done. And this may be simple to some, but this is what makes me happy. And I feel like, in order, women, we are caregivers naturally, and we take care of everything and everybody else, but we can't be our best to no one unless we're taking care of ourselves and putting ourselves first. And, you know, I truly believe that that's what self-care looks like. It is making yourself a priority and taking care of yourself.
What is your biggest takeaway from our conversation today? What do you want the audience to leave with?
I just want the audience to leave with and understand that it takes a lot of inner work to really, truly step out and become the best version of who you are, of become the version that God created you to be. And I would encourage everyone to really, like, take some time out, you know, turn off the TV, you know, get off of social media for 30 minutes to an hour every day. and just journal and, start writing the thoughts that are in your head. Why am I unhappy? Why am I stressed? And, really start making an effort to make some of those changes. And I guarantee you, if you do, like when you make it to the other side, living your best life, being happy and fulfilled, that you won't look back. For me, I make a conscious effort not to go back to the place I was prior to doing the self-work.
What do you need right now that you don't have to move the needle forward?
I would say I need a very strong, solid team of women to help. And the reason why I say that, because one thing I'm starting to understand is only one me. And I can't be everywhere all the time. But I know how important this work is. And so if I can build up a group of women, kind of duplicate myself to go out here and be an impact, then I think, I would be able to make a bigger difference in the world.
What can we do right now to support your business?
What can you do right now to support my business? I would say, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I would say, just really be a part of the movement, like be a part of the community of women empowerment. I would say that because I think that that's, a big part of what I actually do. I, believe that if we can work together as women collectively, I think the world would be a much better place. So I truly believe that, I do a lot of things in the community, a lot of women networking events, and just to take part in that. I do a lot of free events, and I think that if we could just as women let our guards down a little bit and really get to a place where we really want to see each other succeed and win, and come together. I think it'll make a big difference in the world, and it'll definitely make a difference in what I'm doing.
What is your zone of genius?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
What is your zone of genius?
I would say I truly believe that I allow, like, I know the voice of God, and I allow Him to use me in a way that I'm not afraid. A lot of things I do scared, and I really, rely on God to get me through certain situations. And I know that if God places on my heart to do, I go out and do it. So I follow the voice of God. I truly do.
Legacy. When it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for the woman who made an impact in this world by empowering and inspiring other women to become the best versions of who they are.
What is something you dream about often that you have not done that you would like to do?
I dream about being on a stage with thousands of women. And, it's interesting because 2013 was the first time that I ever spoke publicly. And, prior to that, you could not even get me to stand in front of my family without me being a ball of nerves. And I had a dream in 2013 for the first time that I was on a stage. And this was before I actually started speaking in 2013, but I had a dream that I was on a stage in front of a whole bunch of women. And I've had that same dream periodically throughout this last decade. And, one day I know I've been on stages with a few hundred women, but I know that one day that I'll be on stage with thousands of women at one time. And that's a big dream and a desire of mine.
Speak to the person in your lineage that has given you the most profound advice. Who is that person and what was the advice?
I would say that it was my father. And he told me, and it's crazy because, my father and I we didn't have a really strong relationship growing up. However, I've never been the type of person that, I believe God gave me that father for a reason. And, I noticed even with my other siblings, like, because he wasn't like actively in our lives, that they, their relationships are different with him. But for me, he's still my father. So, he told me to never let anyone stop me from doing the things that I love to do and being the person that God wanted me to be, because he's a very spiritual man. And for me, it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me because, although, like I said, we wasn't close, but, that showed me like my father saw something in me. And, you know, to even take the time to sit down with me, even as an adult, to pour into me and tell me things like that, it means a lot, because I know the desires of my heart. I know that I can be anything that I want to be, and I know not to let anyone stop me. But to hear that coming from my father, especially based on the relationship that we had growing up, it meant a lot to me.
Keianna, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
One question I would have asked myself is, where do I see myself in 10 years from now? And I would answer that question. I see myself running a global empire. Right now, I'm impacting people mainly in the United States. But my dream, and I believe it's part of my purpose, is to impact globally. So I see myself running an empire, being all over the world, empowering women, writing many books, um, many lifestyle transformation, educational programs. That's where I see myself in 10 years, being truly fulfilled, time freedom, financial freedom, as a result of me walking in my purpose.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Rapid Round of Fun. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass.
Okay.
Are you ready for the rapid round of fun?
I'm ready.
Your ideal car.
My ideal car, I want a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon.
What is your favorite comfort food?
My favorite comfort food is, I have to say, macaroni and cheese.
The last movie you saw?
Black Panther 2.
You relaxed doing what?
I relax doing, honestly, it's going to sound crazy, but I love to walk the mountain. And for me, that's relaxing.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
My favorite singer is Beyonce, hands down.
Your favorite dance song?
My favorite dance song, Swag Surfing. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that's an Atlanta anthem.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what food I eat every day. Boiled egg whites every single day. Every morning, I have boiled egg whites and coffee with almond milk creamer, and I have probably eaten boiled egg whites for the last 10 years every single morning.
Workout or hit the couch?
Workout, definitely.
Keianna Williams, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with you, and feel free to leave all your social media handles.
Okay. The best way to connect with me, you can go to my website, www.thelifestyleexchange.com. My social media, The Lifestyle Exchange on Instagram, and The Lifestyle Exchange on Facebook. And you can follow my personal professional lifestyle page, which you'll see more of me and the way I actually live. Your underscore lifestyle underscore coach. And that's on Instagram.
Thank you, Keianna. That's a wrap.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Francis.
My pleasure.